Alrighty. I should have recorded this hours ago, but I just didn't have the time. So I saw Bay Area 415's video earlier today about anti-Asian sentiment in the U.S. And he ended it on a rant about, well, we should work with China and we should be helping them with their 5G and everything else. We could be helping them and, we could be working together. This and that. It's like, yeah, that's nice, but it's idealism. It's like, I've thought this too in my own head. Yeah. Why doesn't the U.S. and China just work together? Why don't they just, but that's such an oversimplification. That ignores, if we want to, be honest about it, that's ignoring the tensions between the United States and China in terms of the, in terms of using terms like yellow peril or, the Exclusionary Act. Of course, this is the late 18th century, early 20th century, or late 19th century, early 20th century. The racist caricatures like Charlie Chan, this and that. There's a lot of stuff there. I mean, even beyond that, though, is, the idea of, continuing to talk about Uyghurs, this and that, using them as a potential wedge to, try to destabilize China. And there's so many others. The thing is, though, is that it's easy to just say the American empire is collapsing. Okay, yeah, we can all admit that. But I think it goes further. Is that it is, that we are going to just break up into various, we are going to have not only secession and balkanization, but also just warlordism and everything else. I think that's what we're headed towards. I really do. You can go ahead and talk about autocracy versus democracy all you want to, Joe Biden. It's not going to, like I say. So this very idealistic sort of idea, because apparently that Bay Area 415 was working with this guy, Second Thought, who does a lot of sanitized videos on socialism and stuff like that. Okay. Did a video with Paul Morin as well. Apparently he lives in Texas. The thing is, man, is that when you water down the message like that and you simplify things saying, well, if we just work together and idealism, shaping and moving the world to fit your vision of things, the world doesn't work that way. It has never worked that way. So it's the same thing when I heard this goober, Lee Camp. I'm not saying he's wrong, but the thing is, though, is when he gives these nonsense arguments or these nonsense phrases like, well, nations don't exist. And it's just like, and then he'll make a video about Iran. I'm like, yeah, if you asked Iranians, they would say, yeah, the Iranian state does exist. Yeah. And the Iranian nation does exist. It does have its own history. You can go ahead and say is that, nations don't exist according to capitalism. Yeah, that's true. But the thing is, though, nations do exist IRL, apart from evil capitalists, That's the whole thing of it. But, people are, I don't know. Anywho, maybe I'm being bad faith and I don't understand his argument. But the thing is that the U.S. is going to break apart. This idea of idealism where it's just like, we desperately need, infrastructure support and this and that. It's just like, look, we've got our own problems, and we see that, yeah, India. I've seen Jason Unruh talk about it, and I've heard, Aaron Monte talk about this as well. And plenty of others. There are thousands of others. Millions. India's COVID-19 crisis, their new strain is going to be much worse because they're talking about, Talked about the UK one, but the India one is going to be even harsher. And India is asking for support. The US doesn't want to give it. Like I say, it's just idealism. It's just idealism to try to think of that. It's idealist to think about it and say, well, if we could all just work together, and that's idealism. That's trying to fit your childish ideas into real life. Or it's like, why didn't you just help that guy? Why didn't you just help that guy who was getting choked out? Well, the thing is that, from a very practical point of view, call me a coward, but the thing is, I don't know if that guy has a knife. I don't know if there are other guys around him. I don't know any of that. So why would I want to insert myself into something and then get stabbed, or get killed in some other way? This is the same type of thing that happened with, I'm just going to bring it to a hip hop point of view because it's the easier story for me, but DJ Scott LaRock, right? KRS-One. DJ Scott LaRock was involved in an altercation, he was trying to break up an altercation, and he ended up getting killed because of it. The thing is that Scott LaRock had worked at a shelter, this and that, and that's where he met KRS-One, and that's how it started. But the thing is that that's the perfect example of idealism, where it's just like, well, if we could only do it this way, then we could just make it work. We could have a freer world. If this case, it's the whole idea of, if we had socialism, and we had, if we had, automation in a socialist world, then things would be so much better. I do not live in that fantasy. I think that it would still be a problem, even under socialism. It would still exist. So, like I say, I think that a lot of folks just want to, have this sort of idealized idea of what things are about, and it doesn't really work that way. Yeah. Probably wasn't the best explanation of idealism, and I know people will say that's not what Giovanni Gentile said about idealism or whichever, and I'll say, yeah, it's not, but this is my version of idealism, so take it as it is. I think that's all I have. Hopefully y'all enjoy that. See you later, and goodbye.